Violent video games have encouraged the killing of innocent people for sport.
That was Senator Grassley from Iowa. And he's right, says Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham. He took over his father's ministry. So why do you think he's right?
Well, first of all, John, God understands violence. His son, Jesus Christ, was nailed to a tree for our sins and died for our sins, and God raised him to life. God understands violence. And we see violence all around us, but in our country, John, in the last 30, 40 years, violence has come into our homes in the form of entertainment. And it is, you know, when I was growing up, it was Gunsmoke, Marshall Dillon, and he only pulled out his gun to protect and to save life, and the good guys always won. But it's a far cry from the video games that we have today. And what we see on television from Hollywood, every night the gun is glorified.
Well, what do you want to do? You want to ban them?
Well, you know, we have, of course, a constitution, and we won't be able to do that. But we certainly can tax them, John. We can tax violence. Why don't we try that? We do that to cigarettes, alcohol. Why not tax violence and give the money to the people that are the victims?
Now, I noticed that the head of the National Rifle Association agrees with your points. He says the video games business is a corrupt industry
that sells and stows violence against its own people through vicious, violent video games. Isn't fantasizing about killing people as a way to get your kicks really the filthiest form of pornography?
Filthy porn sowing violence. Come on, he's right to defend gun rights, but there's no good evidence that video games cause violence. I push back to both of you.
And John, and I appreciate that. Listen, I've had guns all my life. My father gave me my first gun when I was 9 years old. Everyone I grew up with had guns, but we didn't go around shooting people. And today, these young kids want to dress like the actors they see in TV or what they see in these video games, and they arm themselves with these rifles and guns, and they go out and they commit these killings. It is sick, and it's a cocaine. Our entire nation has become addicted to violence for entertainment, like the Romans.
You talk about all this stuff coming into our homes in the past 30, 40 years, and you're right, there's much more violence, it's much more horrible. Yeah. But crime is down. Yeah. Youth offenses are down. Maybe it's good for kids. We don't know.
John, I would say it's not good for anybody to watch murder. These video games, to me, are murder simulators is what they are. And it's very dangerous, John, very dangerous.
In Japan, they watch twice as many of these video games, and the murder rate is a fraction. You look at crime per 100,000 people, 10 firearm deaths in the United States, less than 1 in Japan, and so on. There's just no evidence that playing the games causes people to run around and shoot people.
John, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that we do need evidence, okay? We need to have a national study of this, but yet we don't really have one underway at this time, as far as I know. The President and Congress need to get behind and trying to find a way to curb violence. It's an epidemic in our country, and how do we stop this? We need God's help, John, we really do.
In the 1950s, the villain was the comic book. The Senate claimed comics were causing juvenile delinquency. And at one hearing, a so-called forensic scientist said one comic promotes sadistic fantasies to kids. That comic was Superman.
I don't know. And maybe those comic books did have a negative impact. I really don't know. But we don't know unless we have a study, do we? And our government is not focusing on that.
I can't imagine what more study we could have other than the fact that the games are more popular and crime is down. But thank you, Franklin Graham. When we return, we'll move from violence to sex. Should paying for it be illegal?